and I'm just gonna make sure
I
everything
have
is
some
good.
poems like ready just in
Yeah,
case.
yeah, we're gonna sprinkle it in.
Okay.
All right, it looks like we are live on Facebook.
Yay.
Um, so thank you.
JP.
Yeah, Jessica Campbell, my homie. I'm just making sure we good to go on this live situation. It looks like we're
Okay.
good to go. Um, Wonderful. And welcome everybody who is on Facebook. We're streaming live right now. I'm in Harlem. We got Jessica Care Moore here. This is Memoir Live, Memoir Noir. This is a live version of the conversations that I'm having with Black history makers, current Black history makers, folks who are doing really amazing things, um, sharing stories and making sure we're shedding the light on our folks in
Yeah.
a way that is fruitful and um, as powerful as possible. And I am with a powerful sister today.
Hi.
I am your host, JP Reynolds, and I'm with a powerful sister today. This is one of my homies, one of my influences for real. And her name is Jessica Care Moore. She is a poet. She is many things. I'm actually going to read you a bio real quick, so folks can get familiar very quickly. If you don't already know, you should know. But if you don't already know, Jessica Care Moore, very, very ardent supporter and representative of the D. Detroit is in the building. Jessica is an American poet. She is the CEO of More Black Press, executive press producer of Black Women Rock, and founder of the literacy-driven Just Care More Foundation, an internationally renowned poet, playwright, performance artist, producer. She is the recipient of the 2013 Elaine Locke Award from the Detroit Institute of Arts. She's the author of many things. We're going to get into conversations about things she's written. She's even going to share some of the things she's written as well. We were just chopping it up before we went live, and she told me some really special things about about her current status and her current work. I'm excited about this, and we're gonna just get into it. Jessica Care Moore,
Yes.
Jess,
What up, JP? I'm so excited to talk to you today.
yeah, this is so dope.
I'm so tired of being on Zooms and things, but I like this one. I was like, okay, let me get it together. I want to talk to JP.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank you for having me. Shout out to Legacy Network, and the series
Yes,
you're doing, and it's important that we archive our history and
yes,
current history makers. So thank you for including
yes,
that lineup.
yes. We're trying to give you your flowers. You know what I'm saying? It's not the present. It will be the past one day, but we want to recognize the present now. So,
Come on, thank
you know what I'm
you.
saying? So we are here. And Jess, can you just tell us, how did you get your start in writing?
Oh wow.
Just give us some background info. How
We're
did
gonna
you
go
get your
all the way
start?
back, all the
We're
way
gonna go
back. Okay.
all the way back.
I mean, I was an interesting little girl. I was growing up in the West Side of Detroit, very, very curious young girl,
Mm,
and a big reader. So my
mm,
mother, I started with 8 books. So she
mm,
didn't read fiction. So my mother, is like responsible for a lot of this. To be honest, she
mm,
would put Lorraine Hansberry books and Alice Walker poetry books just in the house. We're in the house, and she
mm.
read a lot of memoir, which makes me not really into fiction as much as I wish I was, but I
Mm,
love history and I love
yeah.
memoir.
Mm,
So I grew up in the West Side of Detroit. Poetry was something that I just did for fun. I was in high
mm,
school. I was a big nerd. I was in the theater department. I didn't know Black poets.
mm,
I knew about Dudley Randall, the Black Poets anthology that he did, Detroit, Broadside
mm,
Press. And
mm,
so I started to learn about a little bit of this in 10th, 11th grade, but my life changed literally in high school at Cody High School when my drama teacher brought For
mm,
Color Girls into the Black Box Theater. So
mm,
got introduced to Ntozake Shange's work, as a 16-year-old, right?
mm-hmm.
And my then I found Lucille Clifton, then I found Audre Lorde and Sonia
Yeah.
Sanchez and Jane Cortez at my library on Joy Road up the street from my high school. So yeah, I mean,
Oh.
so libraries are very, very important to me, like local libraries, because
Mm,
that's how I found it. It wasn't given to me in my English courses. And
mm,
so I started writing. I was writing like about boys, things that weren't important, like, just
mm,
silly things. And then as I became more political, and I
mm,
went to Michigan State University my freshman year, and they were trying to bring Farrakhan to campus, and it was like 12 Jewish kids and a rabbi. I almost stopped that from happening. So I became a part of this movement to make sure that Black voices were being heard on this very white campus.
yeah.
Um, Art and activism began very early for me at 17. I mean, I came home from Michigan State after my freshman year, and was already back in my Cody High School talking about what it's like to be a college student. And so, but poetry was just that thing that I did. I didn't think I could make a living though, JP, as a poet. So I studied journalism and political science. I like politics and I thought journalism. So I started as a journalist first. And which is why I wanted to do documentary film. And so, and what poems to me are just kind of like small films, like all of them. It's full of like metaphor and storytelling. And yeah, and so I remember like when I was years later when I was in New York, just to fast forward, I was working with Nas and I was in the studio doing that Nostradamus album in '99. After I won the Apollo and all that. It was like one line of your poem, you know, sounds like it's a film. You know, just one line of them. And so it's been a blessing to go from just being like a young poet, you know, reading about people like Intozaki and Sonia Sanchez in books, or Baba Madabuti, Donnelly, Amiri Baraka, to becoming friends with these people and then becoming my mentors. People like Gil Scott Heron, you know, the last poets. These brothers and these sisters have taken care of me. These Black arts movement legends, who some of them we've lost, you know, like Lucille Clifton and Amiri Baraka. Me and Amiri were very close, you know, shout out to Raz Baraka, the poet mayor. And he was also on my press, you know. So I've had a journey with this work, with not just being a poet, but also becoming a book publisher in 1997 when I was living in New York City after winning the Apollo. And so, yeah, I don't know if that says, I don't know. I've been writing my whole life.
Your life is a poem, right? And I know you care so much about literature, and we're gonna get a little bit into your book a little later and your history of being a published author. But you mentioned the Apollo, and you mentioned Nas, and you mentioned those late '90s. And I would love for you to, and I know Detroit is such a huge influence, and you mentioned so many rich artists and poets, so many like sacred names, right? I mean, they move me. Like when you mention those names, they actually move me. You know what I'm saying? And
I call their names all the time. They keep me grounded. Mama Sonia Sanchez is 86 years old. You know, born on September 9th, the same year, same day my son was born. And so I was just with her for a surprise birthday Zoom, which was amazing. Yeah, man. I was really excited to be on that. So with my sister Ursula Rucker, you know, these are important people. And I drop their names often, and I've been doing that for 25 years.
And you should. It's important. It's important to do that. And one of the things that you mentioned was the Apollo. And I hear all these influences. I would love to hear your story of the Apollo and what it meant for your career, what it meant for you as a writer.
I mean, it changed my life. So I'm in New York City. I'm 5 months in, trying to learn the train still, JP. Like I'm living in Brooklyn. And at that time I was immersed into, like, I was at the Brooklyn Moon Cafe. I was at the Sunday Tea Party. That was like the poetry spots in Brooklyn. I was at the New Eurekan, right? I was doing all the things that poets do. I mean, just fresh off the boat from Detroit. And Maurice Dwyer, who's my friend to this day, was an associate producer at the Apollo at the time. He saw me at the Brooklyn Moon. He was like, Jessica, I wouldn't say this to many poets, but I think you should go to the Apollo. And I was like, really? And I was like, okay. I had never been to the Apollo yet. And I was like, all right, I love the Apollo. I said, are you sure? He's like, yes. So I went to the audition. Maxine Lewis, who is responsible for a lot of talent that got on that show, she was the casting agent. I went in, I did a poem. She pulled me to the side. She said, oh my God, we're going to put you on the show. I was like, really? And to be honest, I was so green. I didn't even know how deep that really was. And then I went. Listen, JP, when I went to the Apollo, the Fugees were performing. Brandy was performing. Brandy came up to me like, I loved your poem. Brandy was there. Paul Mooney was backstage with me. I was just like, yo, what is happening right now? And I went up for the first time to perform. I had my little wrap skirt, my Kari shells, my long dookie Janet Jackson, you know, poetic Justin braids. Yes. And I did the poem Black Statue of Liberty, that was a recent occurring poem that I had. It was a new poem at the time. And I just read what I thought I should read, and I didn't expect to win. I didn't. And I was actually rooting. There was some 5 brothers singing The Temptations. I'm from Detroit. This brother was killing that David Ruffin. I was like, whoa. I said, they about to win. I was like rooting for the damn other group. And I went in and like with a poem. And as a lyricist, I know you'll appreciate this. I mean, just with a poem, no music, just the poem. This audience went crazy. And they did it again and again. And I got, so, people, television shows usually take more than one show in a day. So I did that poem, Black Statue of Liberty, twice to the same audience. Black people, come on in Harlem, you supposed to leave. So after the tape, you're supposed to leave, but nobody leave. They just get up and change their seat and sit back down. And after the second win, I was like, I'm not going out there doing that poem again. So the rule with the Apollos, if you win with a song, like if someone's singing to I'm Telling You, right? Very popular Apollo song, or some song to Jesus, whatever.
You got some song to Jesus.
I was competing against people singing to Jesus. I was like, a rapping dog. I beat the rapping dog. It was a rapping pit bull. That's who I ended up. That's who had been winning. The rapping dog was on Dr. Dre and Ed Lover. Ed Lover,
yes.
Dr. Dre, they had a show on Hot 97 at the time. And I was laughing because I was like, yo, this rapping dog is on the freaking Hot 97. So they ended up bringing me on to the show because I was the one that beat the rapping dog. Yo.
Wow.
So it was bananas. It was surreal. I cried. And I really cried the second time. I was overwhelmed, to be honest. And then I thought about my father. Like, my daddy died in 1994, and I moved to New York in 1995. So I was still, and my father and I were like this. And so my father's death propelled me, spiritually, to move to New York, because my daddy wouldn't have let me go to Brooklyn by myself. He wouldn't have let me leave. And so my father's death was actually the thing that catapulted me into my entire life. And the poems poured out of me after my daddy died. So I was still dealing with that. And so, like, after I won, the only thing I could think about was like, my daddy's not here. The thing that was missing for me, but he was so there, so there. And he's with me all the time. But I wish he could have seen that, because I know my daddy would have just been, it would have been his whole life, right? My daddy was proud when I just had a byline in the student newspaper. He was taking that to the truck stops where they did the numbers in Detroit. That was me. That's why I grew up, like, in my daddy's Cadillac, driving around to all his spots. And so it was a really beautiful, surreal thing. I won that 3 weeks. I came back the next day to shoot 2 more shows. I won 2 more days. I did a poem called Black Girl Juice. So that's what I begged Maxine. Could I, Miss Lewis, can I please do a different poem? I was like, I'm not going back out there to them Black folks doing that same poem again. You better come on out. She's like, is it appropriate for TV? I said, I promise it is. It's called Black Girl Juice, but it's not. It's about political power, because people think it's about sex. I said, it has nothing to do with that. It's mind, body. So I sold it, and it let me do Black Girl Juice. I gave it to me again. And so after the 5th week, the 5th taping, Steve Harvey came out. I was getting dressed for my 6th win, my 6th time to go out. And Steve Harvey came out and said, listen, we know she didn't lose, but we're going to retire Ms. Jessica Care Moore, because we think that's the right thing to do. So I was getting too much television play. That was 5 weeks of national television. They was like, yo, she got to go. Because no one had ever done that. So it wasn't just I was the first poet. Like, nobody had ever done that on the televised show. It might have happened on a Wednesday night at the amateur night, that they don't show. But during the taping, no one had ever won that many times. And so, I became a part of the ASCAP. I had to join the union. Like, my life changed quickly. And then it didn't come on yet, mind you. So a couple months, so my friends got wind of, the poets in New York found out that I had won. So they all came back on Sunday. They were in the audience. They were like going crazy. And it's deep because, JP, like, because when you win on a stage like that, that's not a traditional literary stage. And I came from not just the oral tradition, but I was also deeply rooted in the Black literary tradition.
Yes.
I had to go out of my way, and I still fight. Listen, still fight for the respect as a writer. Even sometimes around Black writers and poets, mostly the ones who are in the academic world, where they don't always want to give the respect to a poet that can connect with an audience the same way an Amiri Baraka or Gil Sky Heron, or my tutelage is that. Like, I'm a poet, but I like that microphone too. And I like music. And so I'm trying to connect on every level with people. Interdisciplinary artists. It took me to become a grown up to understand that I work in different disciplines. I use images. I do collage on canvas with poems. And also I'm a people's poet. That's like Langston Hughes was, I didn't do poems to get awards. You know what I mean? If I get an award, blessings, you know what I mean? Yeah. But the award for me was people felt me, people were inspired, people were moved to action. Look, girls have told me and now that I'm on Instagram, inboxed me and said, I was getting beat by my boyfriend when I saw you in the Apollo. I never knew poems sounded like that till I saw you in the Apollo. I didn't know that Black girls wrote poems. Like, what we are, when we are the poem, right? And so it was beautiful. And then it was, for me internally, I had to fight harder. I had to
Yeah.
write more. I had to
Yeah.
write better. I had to keep
Yeah.
honing my craft. And so, and then I started an institution called More Black Press in 1997. And I published The Words Won't Fit in My Mouth, sold 20,000 copies of that mug, got an Essence magazine, got a distribution deal with one book with Baker and Taylor. Baker and Taylor don't do one person books. Somebody
Right.
with independent person with one book don't get a distribution deal. I got
Right.
one.
Right.
And because Black people were going into Barnes and Nobles and Borders in those
And
bookstores
asking.
saying, where is the poet girl Apollo book? Like,
Right.
where the girl with
Black girl
Apollo, where her
juice.
book at?
Oh yeah, right.
Where's she at? And so I was like, let me make a book. I got you. And I got turned down by like big publishing houses. I had a literary agent. I got turned down by a bunch of publishing houses, which I should have been. I'm glad I was turned down. I was young. Manuscript was all right, but I learned how to make books. You know what I mean? And to this day, Black Classic Press. Shout out to Paul Coates. That's Ta-Nehisi Coates' daddy. Paul Coates is my printer, and so he publishes. He prints my books. I've done different printers for all the years. I did Saul Williams' first book in 1998, The Seventh Octave. So, you know, I had Saul was my friend at the time. He was killing it. I was like, yo, that's, you know, and Saul walked his manuscript over to my house in Brooklyn. And was like, we all lived in the same neighborhood at the time, Fort Greene. And so let's do the Hakeem Matabuti of our generation. And I was like, I don't know about all that, but I'll publish your book. What's up? So I invested in Saul. I took $5,000 at the time and invested and got his book done, learning how to run a press, you know?
Yeah, it's like you also got this entrepreneurial streak too, right? And this, you know, there's a lot of different levels. There's a lot of hats you wear, including that, you know, the fire one you got on now, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to the hats.
Thank you.
And it's amazing to hear the story of the Apollo and what poetry did to catapult you and what your life did to catapult you. I'm wondering actually,
you know, and the culture, you know, absolutely.
I'm wondering, you know, we heard about these poems. I'm wondering if you might want to bless us with, can you bless us with a poem so we can hear?
I can bless you with many poems. How many poems you need?
Let's hear one poem, you know, and this is from a book that you have, and we'll talk about that. I want you to give the biggest plug ever from the book that you have coming out. But let's bless us with a poem, because again, I think it's important to hear what we're talking about, you know, the combination or the intersection of the oratory, but also the literature, right?
Come on.
That's what you do. You know, you bring all of these things together. So I would love for you to share it with us so we can hear it. And
so thank you, JP. This is called Where Are the People? And it's in my new book, For the Bodies We Can No Longer Locate. And you can relate to this in Harlem. Harlem and Detroit are very similar to, by the way. You know, I lived in Harlem. I lived on 159th and St. Nick. So shout out to Harlem. I love you, Harlem. Black spaces, being colonized, being, you know, taken over by corporate, by, you know, other things, people who have more money, and developers. And so this is Where Are the People is a poem I wrote after I was driving. Me and my son King had gotten a pizza with pork on it by accident, like from a pizza place. So we don't eat pepperoni. So I'm driving up what's called Cass Corridor. They renamed it Midtown. So it's the hip little area by Wayne State University now. And I couldn't find anyone to give a pizza to. So when I went to Wayne State, not just went to Wayne State, I'm talking about 5 years ago, I could have found somebody who needed something to eat. Somebody who might be struggling with a drug addiction, that might be hungry. We couldn't find anybody to give a pizza to. So came home and I wrote this poem, Where Are the People? Where are the one-way tickets? Who signed the death certificates? Where are the magicians, the madmen, the toothless, the smoothless, the poets, the corner store prophets, the bus stop historians, the traffic stoppers? Where are the people? Where are the blues? Under which pile of gravel? Where are they buried? Hurricane Cass Corridor, Hurricane Cass Corridor. Where is the soul, the soul, the soul, the socks, the soles, the shoes? Where is the soil, the soul, the socks, the soles, the shoes? Where is the heroin? Where are the pills? Where are the women? Where are the thrills? Where is Cass Corridor? My student asked. Is it a building? Is it this way? Is it that way? Your school is sitting in it. I answer, you is it. The dogs are walking the people. The dogs are walking the people. The dogs have parks. The parks don't have children. Where are the people? The step over, the forgotten Holocaust, the fragile, the beautiful, the fast talkers, the backward walkers, the 3 a.m. stalkers. Where did they take them? When will they return? Where is the balance? Where is the money? Where are the schools? Where are the people? We all got Wi-Fi. Nobody getting high outside. Where are they heads? Where are the beds? Where are the recognizable street signs? Where is Joe Louis? Where are the Black people? My white neighbor asked me, Jessica, where are the Black people? Where are the chosen people? Where are our hearts, our guitars? Where are our bass players? Kenny Mack, Anthony Tolson, rest in peace. Where are the anointed, the children of God? Where is the sage, the holy water? Where is the Black imagination located? How much does it cost per square foot to rent there? Is there a rent to own your own Black imagination option? Where are the couples fighting in the alleys? Where are the purple flavor Mad Dog 2020 labels? Where are the needles? Where is the good time? Where did all these goddamn bike lanes come from? Where is the line to simply exist? Where is the painted line to live, to breathe? Where are the parks with swings? Where are the children supposed to live? Where are the children supposed to run? Where are the children supposed to live? Where are the children supposed to run? Where are the twilight teasers, the moonlight mythology makers? Where are the military vets are mentally ill? Where are the people? Where are the people? Where are the people? San Francisco, Oakland, Harlem, Detroit, Chicago. Do you know, huh? Have you seen them? Do they all die so new Detroit could live? Do they all die so new Harlem could live? Do they all die so new San Francisco could live? Where is your conscience? Where is this nonsense coming from? Where is humanity? Where are the people? Where are the people? The one-way tickets, the message is still in the bottle. Where are the indigenous? Where are the salt mines? Where are the people? Where are the people? Where are the people? When you find them, please tell them I have an overpriced gentrified cheese and pork pizza with their names on it. Tell them I am writing for them so they won't disappear without a fight. So there's
Woo. Woo.
that's
I had to put myself on mute because I'm over here just like intonating. I'm sitting here with the hum, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, let me not do too much with the vocals.
Right.
Yeah. For the folks watching, you know, that's the power. That's it. Yeah, it's that voice, it's that rhythm, it's those words, it's, you know, the way those words get put together.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Of course, feels good to read it to you because I mean, places like Harlem, you know, I lived in Harlem and Brooklyn. You know, I go back to New York often. It's like my second home, and you know, it breaks my heart. You know, like Brooklyn breaks my heart, man. I look at all these high rises and things, and I get development. I get, you know, everybody want a coffee and shit and some Wi-Fi, but where, you know, how that, you know, the thing that makes Detroit special is that, you know, this is a Black city. We're still pretty Black here, you know, 85-90% Black. But if you go downtown, people come in for conferences. You know, they're like, Jessica, I mean, my white neighbor really asked me, where are the Black people? I was living in a neighborhood called Corktown for 8 years. And he was like, I came to Detroit to be around Detroit. And if you are in Detroit and if you in a place that has no Black people in it, then you're not in real Detroit. You in some cloned strangeness, you know, something that you're creating that has nothing to do with the people who built this city. You know, and my daddy was one of those people. My daddy was a construction worker. He helped build the city, literally helped build it. And so I come from that. So I'm real tough on gentrification. I'm all about better neighborhoods. You know what I mean?
Right.
I need Joy Road to have Wi-Fi where I grew up. You know, neighborhood that I need the hood to have some Wi-Fi. We all need internet. Like, you know. Right. And so
we all want a nice coffee shop. We all want a nice buildings. It's just, you know, when the white folks move is when they bring it. But you know,
churches, McDonald's, Burger King, all that, they can go away with that. You know, my son didn't grow up eating none of that. I had to explain to him. I said, this is an attack on our environment. This is why COVID, you know, hit us so hard in Detroit. You know, we're talking about pandemics or racism, like COVID, Detroit got hit. I mean, I've lost so many people during this pandemic. I lost my friends. My friends have lost family members. And you think about health, you know, and like the only thing that's kept me okay is that I'm already healthy. So I already got elderberry and apple cider vinegar, and I already drink tea and do ginger. Like I already do those things. And so, but that's not, people are not being raised. You know, people like Queen Afua, like those people are so, like these folks have to become like everyday names where we're talking about health and wellness with Black people. And so, and that's my poetry is all about liberation. You know, like at the end of the day, like every book I've written, this is the 5th one that's now on HarperCollins, Amistad, you know, shout out to them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's talk, because that poem was from your book. We Want Our Bodies Back. Yes, please get it.
It came out during the pandemic, man. My whole tour got canceled.
Oh, listen. American Legacy had 2 tours that were canceled. I was on a tour. I was out in Detroit right before, on Joy Road, before the pandemic happened. Please support Jessica's book. Please support Black artists. Please support Black-owned companies, especially during this pandemic.
They're alive.
But yeah, let's talk about the book a little bit. I mean, it's interesting. You talk about food. You talk about health and bodies, right? And I think that's a part of it as well. But you know, what was your inspiration for this new book? What was the and then you told me something special about this book too. So I want you to definitely throw that in there as well.
Absolutely. So Sandra Bland is the title poem. We want our bodies back, and you see these blue, beautiful brown girls on the cover. So it's but you know, it's funny. Like some of the white women who reviewed the book are like, you know, like they've given me some of the best reviews. So it's not just for Black women, and it's not an attack on Black men. Like there's been people always interpret things strange. It's about us celebrating our bodies and we want our bodies back. Is me saying you can't have mine, and saying that Tamir Rice wants her baby. Tamir Rice mama want her baby back and George Floyd, you know, mama once, you know, because George Floyd, the last words, I can't breathe, which is in this book. I have a poem called I Can't Breathe in the book. So, you know, for people, George Floyd, that was a new event. For people like us, that's something that happens all the time. And so I wrote that poem for Eric Garner and Mike Brown because I was in Ferguson. And so on the ground with Talib Kweli, with Rosa Clemente, the peace poets from the Bronx, and watching the aggressive nature of policing. And so, you know, it's my take on policing of my own body, my people's community, our community. We want our bodies back. We want our time back. We want your foot off our girls' backs. We want all your badges back. You know, I'm talking, it's about defunding the police. It's about all the things that are happening right now. And I'm really proud. You know, I've been running More Black Press since 1997. You know, Saul Williams being my first author, Raz Baraka and Mayor Newark is on my press. Danny Simmons, who was one of the founders of that Poetry Jam. I have his book of poetry and his paintings. And so Asha Bandeli's on the press. So I became like the More Black Press became the poetry imprint that was publishing the people that know the other presses weren't paying any attention to. So my interest in mainstream white press has been very little. I've been anthologized by all of them. You know what I mean? Crown and Random House. I've been in all the anthologies. There were press, you know, Roll Call, countless really, but never a collection. And so my agent and I were actually shopping my memoir. And then I told her when she said she had some interest from HarperCollins, I was like, wow. I said, well, if I'm going to put a book out on a larger mainstream press like that, then it needs to be a poetry book because people need to know I'm a poet first. And people who know, right? But distribution is real when you're an independent hip hop artist or independent singer, independent poet, whatever you are. Distribution is always the Achilles for us. It's always the hardest thing. And so We Want Our Bodies Back was so important to me. I knew the book was solid. I knew the manuscript was strong. Shout out to my friend Brad Warren, who worked on the book with me and helped me edit it. He's a great poet. I'm publishing his book, Everywhere Alien, through More Black Press. And so I'm still publishing and trying to publish as much as I can. It's not easy work, very thankless work. And I decided to give this manuscript to HarperCollins, and I shout out to them. And I'm a star because my editors have been great. But I share with you that I was the first Black woman poet since Gwendolyn Brooks for HarperCollins.
Hold up. Yeah, we gonna. I want you to say that again because that's a big deal. It's also one of those big deals. It's kind of like, wait, really? Like, how's that even a thing? But also, it's a big deal. So can you say that one more time? Because that excites me.
Yeah, so I'm the first Black woman poet since Gwendolyn Brooks to be published by HarperCollins. And so it's major for me. And I love Gwendolyn, but there's a poem for Gwendolyn Brooks, of course, in the book. Yes. And, you know, these Black women poets who don't get celebrated enough, right? Yeah. But I mean, the thing is with the HarperCollins or major presses like that, I know how to sell books. You know what I mean? That's what I know I can do. I have that Detroit hustle in me, and I sell books. That's why I never wanted to give a book to a press because they're gonna give me some money, and then I'm like, I like to make my money, you know. And so this is a different experience for me, but it's actually so incredible for it to happen because during the pandemic, if I didn't have distribution, it would be very difficult for me right now. Right now, you can get the book online. It's all over the world. You can get it. People in the UK have been ordering the book. My friends in France have ordered the book. So it's possible to actually get the book. Whereas for me, I do sell my books on JessicaCareMore.com. So people want to support me directly. That's Sunlight Through Bullet Holes. That's God Is Not an American. My vinyl is there. My CD is there. Mm-hmm. You can also, please go there and support me directly. But it takes me longer because I don't go to the post office like I used to because of COVID. So you gotta be patient. Like I wait to get a certain amount of orders and then I go. But it's really me. I'm like a one-woman army, and I don't have like my assistant and all the people in places because people are just social distancing still. And so So I'm happy I made that decision. It's been bittersweet, you know, with not being able to share. The tour I had set up was just so fantastic. I had residencies at ICA in Boston. Susan Taylor was hosting a party for me on her penthouse in New York
Wow.
City. I mean, I was all over. I was headed to the UK, to Wolverhampton, where my mother was born. And so, but I'm blessed in that I was able to pivot. And I'm talking about, I'm a poet, I'm an artist that had never been on it, had never done an Instagram live ever. I just thought it was corny. I just never did it. Facebook Live, never did it. It just wasn't,
Right.
because I'm on the road, I'm in front of so many people all the time, JP. When I'm at home, I'm at home. And
Yep.
I don't really want that. Here I am with my, you know, I'm like, my living room is on blast like every other 5 minutes. I'm
Right.
trying to set up live things in my office, you know, I did a walkthrough. I did a takeover of the HarperCollins Instagram and did a whole walkthrough of my home and show where I write. You know, I never was that open
Right.
that way. And so, but we need more revolutionary voices to be published. You know, we need poets like me to be in print and to be on major mainstream houses. And I'm also working on an imprint deal for More Black Press so that I can publish more poets and writers. I love
Good.
publishing. I just want to do it smarter. And I need to focus on my writing. Like Walter
Yeah.
Mosley, he's a dear friend of mine and mentor who's amazing, right? Walter Mosley told me years ago, he was like, you need to stop publishing these people that you love so much. And you need to get up every morning at 3 a.m. and write novels. That's Walter Mosley. And so he's like stays in my head, you know, all the
Yeah.
time. I didn't listen to him, of course, because I just didn't. But I know I'm working on a memoir now. I'm working on a children's book now. And so there's other writing. I mean, during the pandemic, you know, I've just been really trying to push my creativity. I've recorded for a couple people's albums. I won't mention one because it's not, I ain't gotta get my contract signed, but having another major MC, like shout out to the hip hop artists that like give me love, you know, like shout out to Talib Kweli and Nas and Jeezy and Kareem Riggins, you know, like that.
Yo, the Jeezy thing was crazy because I just listened to it without looking at the track list. I was like, yo, is this Jessica? I was like, yo, is this Jessica? That's good. It's love when you
eternal reflection. He names it the opposite of reflection, eternal. So
yeah.
I don't know Jeezy. I met him once. You know what I mean? I did his album before. I didn't know him. He wasn't like my friend. I didn't come up with Jeezy. You know what I mean?
Right.
When they reached out to me, I was like, Jeezy who? I was like, what? I had to Google him. I was like, what? I said, is this somebody I want to be on? And then I listened to the music, and I was like, oh yeah, I hear it. I hear the Tupac. I hear the evolution. I hear the streets. I hear some evolution. I hear movement in the work. And I love what I wrote. I don't like the beat that's underneath it. You know, I've talked about that pretty openly. I recorded that on a banger, just so you know, with Nick Speed, engineered it in Detroit. And the beat that I wrote the piece to is a banger. They took the banger off me.
They changed the music on you. At least it kept your voice on there, though. That's, you know, I hear you. That's always.
I think that's what it was. They didn't want the music to like drown out what I was saying. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
But, you know, I like to be on some bangers, so you know it's okay. But I should do it on my own album. It's cool. It's cool.
Listen, you talked about your own publishing house, right? You've been on songs, you've recorded things, you've published things. Can you talk a little bit about being a Black woman in the space and, you know, the difficulty, especially in the publishing space, right? I mean, you said that you're the first Black woman poet since Gwendolyn Brooks to get published on HarperCollins.
Yes.
Which again is an amazing feat, but it's one of those things. It's like, why is it? That's crazy, right?
That's crazy, right?
So
well, poets, you know, people don't believe in poets. You know what I mean? They don't, because I'm a poet that sells books at concerts. You know, that sells books at like, you know, at a hip hop. I'm on tour with Talib selling books. You know, at non-traditional spaces, right? I sold books inside a hair salon. You know what I mean? Places that don't. They're not scanning this all the time, right? But being a Black woman in all spaces is just being a Black woman on an airplane is an interesting thing. I fly for a living pretty much, and it's been an experience to see how people, white men in first class, it's just got comedy skits about it, you know. Then it asked me, I remember being on a plane once, and this is when I started calling myself a poet and not a spoken word artist. Which is interesting. Like, I don't mind, like, people, I know the context of spoken word, but because people tend to not value the intellect of Black writers and scholars, I push back on spoken word. Even though I know I'm a spoken word artist, I know I'm a performance artist, I know I'm a music artist. I make them call me a poet because because poets are educators, because poets are institution builders, because poets are scholars, and I'm all of those things too. And so I'll be on the plane with this. I remember countless times on planes with white people and them saying, "Oh, what do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, you're having casual conversation on the plane." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm a poet." "Oh, so are you spoken word artist?" And I'm like, "No, I'm a poet, like Emily Dickinson, and T.S. Eliot." And it just, they go, "Oh." You know what I mean? Because they think of poetry belongs to white people. Just like people think that organic belongs to white people. Organic don't belong to white people, and either does poetry. And so we write poems, and poems don't always have to sound like Walt Whitman or Robert Frost to be a poem. Even though, and I've read all those people. I can regurgitate all that literary canon that's full of white men, not enough women, if any women at all, a couple, maybe Sylvia Plath, and so for me as a writer, I read everybody, but I ran into like white students at these colleges who are studying literature who haven't only read the same dead white dudes that I read 25 years ago. I was like, "Are you serious right now?" They don't know who Amiri Baraka is. I was like, "How do you not know Sonia Sanchez?" Like they look at me just frozen. These are people who are getting their masters, and getting their MFAs. What? Who are you about to teach? And that's what's wrong. That's what's wrong with education. We have cultural illiteracy on 110%. Come on.
Because a lot of times the black artists, and really black anybody in any space, we have to know all of it, right? We have to know the entire canon, including the folks that are from our communities.
That's right.
But often that same level or the same standard of scrutiny is not applied to other folks in these spaces. So
absolutely. And what Indizaki said, you have to learn their language so you can destroy it. So I'm here for all of it. I'm here for all of it because it makes me more of an intellect than you. You have a segregated education. And unfortunately, our kids grow up without any access to these people who've been writing for them, writing for the liberation of their bodies and their souls and their spirits, writing to celebrate them, poems that celebrate Black boys. Like what's so interesting about King, I have a 14-year-old, and he doesn't like most of the young adult books that are out that are centered around Black boys. It's been interesting about the conversations I've had with him. He's actually working on a book about being a hockey player, a children's book. And so I'm pushing King. Like I said, you know what? Because he gives a lot of criticism, the Virgo. I said, well, if you're criticizing, then I need you to fill the void. If there's something missing, then fill it, right? Or just complain about it. Because that's what mommy does, void filler. You don't just complain, you do it. And so, as 14, I'm talking to him just like that. Like, get it. You know what I'm saying?
That's a word. That's a word.
Well, it's deep because he says the stories about Black boys in these young adult books are all very tragic. He said, why does every Black boy in this story have to have no father? Every Black boy has to overcome something. There's always some kind of a violent act. There's always poverty. He's like, there's no, it's everybody, it's always negative. He said, I can already know what's going to happen. I know the end. He's going to have something that happen. It's going to be horrible. He's going to overcome it. And then the end is okay. Like he's bored, young adult writers. So I need y'all to really see us, even us be able to see us in different spaces. Right. And that's why, even though, Bill Cosby, oh my God, but the Cosby Show was so, like why it was so poignant for the moment is because you saw, lawyers and doctors, you saw Black kids who had a house. And I'm from Detroit. Like I live in a big old house that I bought with Poems, a house that Poems built. But I grew up with Black people in houses. But they were small. We all had cribs. We got cribs, we got driveways, we got cars, you know what I'm saying? Like you didn't have to be rich to have that, in the 80s, in the 70s. Our parents were, I'm a post-riot baby, you know what I mean? But people had homes, people were coming out of those plants, building those cars and building families, right? So Detroit created the Black middle class in the country. A lot of people don't know that. But
that's right. I mean, there's a lot of history in the city of Detroit, and you're right. I mean, it's interesting to hear about King's perspective on it, right? How addicted to Black death and trauma our culture is.
He can't stand
the narrative. The narrative seems so narrow. But speaking of celebrating our stories, you are a celebrator of our stories, and a celebrator of you're a storyteller for us. And I want to kind of talk about your entrepreneurial perspective. Especially when it comes to your joining of music and performance. You're founder of Black Women Rock. And can you talk a little bit about Black Women Rock and your inspiration in starting this and what it is. Some folks may not know what it is. I hope folks know what it is. It's a really dope situation.
Not everybody does, so it's fine. And so I think I'm more of an institution builder than I am an entrepreneur. Let me just say that. I think I'm all right on business, but I think I could be better. I didn't go to school for business, but I'm definitely about community building, and I'm about artists getting paid, and I'm a void filler. And because I, as an artist, have been in so many worlds in Detroit and in New York, I was on the Black rock scene. So I was doing shows with Black rock musicians like Greg Tate, Vernon Reid. We're all intersecting, trying to make, New York was like, everybody's at the shows. Like the reason why I'm connected to hip hop is because the person formerly known as Mos Def, right? Yasin Bey and Talib, they were, and even Erykah Badu, they were all on the poetry scene with me. So it was all intersected. People was making poems, people were writing hooks, people were doing, and so from even rock and roll, like I like jungle, so I like my voice, the way I go fast with lyrics. I like jungle and drum and bass. I was experimenting with that and rocking with guitars, and I saw these incredible women like Tema Kali and Imani Azuri. These are women I was doing shows with. So because intellectually we were on the same page. So I was doing shows on open mics with Matulu, and Stick from Dead Prez, because we talking about similar things, right? And so those women who were making guitar licks, nasty licks, and doing shows. And when I was producing at the National Black Arts Festival, I was a young producer at the time, on the young producer team. I said I wanted to produce a rock concert at the National Black Arts Festival. And at that time, the National Black Arts Festival was popping. It was annual, but they were doing my kind of more traditional things, right? Literary stuff, theater. I was like, no, a rock and roll concert. And I want to do a tribute to Betty Davis. And so Betty Davis, if people don't know, was married to Miles Davis. She's one of my muses, and we love each other, man. She knows me. We know each other now. I have like 3 beautiful black and white photographs that she gifted me when we took Black Rock to Pittsburgh. We headlined the Pittsburgh Jazz Festival, and this beautiful signed portrait of her. It just blows my mind that I talked to Betty Davis at all. She's a cult figure. She's not easy to access by design. And I wanted to celebrate a Black woman in funk and rock and roll history that was under-celebrated, very well sampled, and still alive. And so Betty became the center for Black Rock. And I brought Imani Azuri and Tema Kali and Divinity Rocks. I bought at that time all their bands. I brought the film Afro Punk, and we did a talk with Jane Spooner, the director, and all the women about race and inclusion in the rock and roll American bullshit industry. How they, the people who started this thing called rock and roll are Black women. Black women, rock and roll is just the blues sped up. You know what I'm saying? And so, we got Rosetta Thorpe, you got, Tina Turner, Grace Jones. I mean, we have our mamas, right? But radio play for Black women rock and roll artists, like, these women who are singing with me, like, singing at the show, like Stephanie Christian. Everybody has done my show. Deion Ferris has done my show. Julie Dexter, Imani Azuri, Joy, the queen. Can't do any shows without her. Nick West, crazy bass player. Celise Henderson, who now plays with Lizzo. I mean, the kind of list goes on. Nona Hendricks, who's a living legend, has done the show 4 times. Called me in San Francisco, like, you got room? I was like, we always make room for you. And so got the attention of someone like Nona Hendricks, right? But it's normally a 12 to 15 piece rock orchestra with all Black women. And it's a high energy, 90-minute, 2-hour production that is crazy. And shout out to Jackie Vincent out of Austin, Texas. Like, you see these women, what kills me is like how extremely talented they are. Like Tema Kali, queen of Afro Punk, how killer they are on guitar, how they shred, right? Shout out to Liza Kobe, you know what I mean? And her group, the group Susu, Kia Warren and Liza Kobe. I mean, these are women who you may not know, but you should know them. If you go to blackwomanrock.com, some of them are there. I'm constantly updating the site, but it's there. We've been 16 years strong. But the most important thing we do outside that concert is that we do a conversation. And we let these women tell their stories, and we let people listen. And their stories are extraordinary. And they have similar lives as me, JP, because like my life is, I've been all over the world for 25 years as a poet. And either people know that or they don't. So in some rooms, I'm famous, right? Whatever the hell that is. People know who I am, or people don't know, right? Famous people usually know me. So that's what's funny. Like Joy, I remember someone asked the question. They all know us. Yeah, like, Raphael Sadiq or, Lenny Kravitz, like, like Yazara who's done my show countless times, was on the tour with Lenny Kravitz. Prince knew about Black Women Rock, absolutely. Because Dick West was one of his protege. We wanted him to come to the show, but he was like, I would be a complete distraction. We were like, we'll hide you in the back. Come to the show, Prince. And
that
so,
crazy.
yeah, man. And so I don't think I could have hosted. And so it's just important that we really, Black people lift up artists that are not on the radio. And that's what it was. Like, a lot of these artists they do audiences all over the world. They're all over Europe, big shows. They're doing stadiums, right? I mean, Divinity Rocks played with Beyonce, so she's done like huge shows, right? But she's a front woman. She's not a back woman. She's a Divinity, rhyme, sang. She killer. I ain't seen too many MCs that can rock on bass and be rhyming like that at the same time. It's not.
That's different. That's different.
She's
That's
fire,
different.
right?
That's
and
different.
So I put these women together, and then it blows people's minds. And so, I'm working on pushing that into a bigger space. Black Women Rock is, was the name. I'm pushing more toward Daughters of Betty, because we just think it's Sate. Shout out to Sate, who's one of the biggest Black rock artists out of Canada, who does our show on a regular basis. She's just a killer. These women are killers. Like, we get on stages and it's like, and I'm a poet. I'm a poet in the middle of these, like, and my girl gang is hardcore, man. Like, shout out to Cree Summer, who I've been trying to get Cree to do the show for a minute. I love Cree Summer so much, and was a big fan of her record that came out and her music. And these are women who are like very cutting edge, very edgy women who could sing R&B, who could do R&B songs, but they don't want to. And
that's not what they
man, and rock and roll belongs to us. And the tagline is what rock and roll looks like. And so I'm a poet in the middle of this really incredible movement for Black women rock and roll artists. And it's not like we rock, we're great. It's like, no, we rock, like literally, like we are rock and roll. Yeah.
Literally rock and roll.
Yeah, urban radio. But see, here the problem is Black radio stations don't play them, and then white rock radio stations don't play them. So they're like the plays, they're in this limbo that's really unfair. And so I'm more of an institution builder. Like I love curating.
That's good. That's a good distinction.
Yeah.
That's a good distinction. That's an important distinction, actually.
A better entrepreneur.
No, but I think.
Yeah, but I'm led by my heart, not by my money. Money doesn't move me. My heart does.
Well, the reason I say it's a good distinction too is that it lends itself to being something other than capitalist, right? So I think that's actually an important distinction. We won't get into that today, Jess. We could probably talk a lot about that. But listen, you mentioned that famous people often know you, which is the true thing.
Hilarious.
So I am going to mention a famous person now who you spent some time with this past year, Dave Chappelle.
Oh yeah.
And I know you spent some time at his summer camp.
Summer camp. Summer camp. Shout out to summer camp. I miss summer camp. I'm actually, I think I'm going back on Thursday just to hang out in Yellow Springs. Yellow Springs, Ohio, for people who don't know, is about 15, 20 minutes outside of Dayton, right? It's just a little town. So you drive through all these Trump and Pence signs going through Ohio, and then you get to Yellow Springs, and it's like, woo! It's like, oh, this whole outfit I got on is from Yellow Springs. I'm like, this is my little side-eye. It's a cool little hippie town. And Dave Chappelle is from Yellow Springs. I don't know if people know that or not. They connect him with like DC, Virginia, all kinds of. He lived in other places, but he was born in Yellow Springs. And I believe his father was either the president of Antioch at one time, college down there, or definitely a professor. But
definitely a professor. Yeah, I know he's a professor.
Yep, at Antioch. And so Dave decided, an artist, to build. He had a stage that was kind of already working out, a stage outside in the middle of a cornfield. People are thinking that it was at Dave's house. It's not. It's an actual performance venue that was built in the middle of a cornfield. And so it's been, for me, I mean, if I really talk about it, I'll get teared up. It's been an art sanctuary. Talib was the first to invite me down. And so Dave and I go back 25 years. He's a really good friend, an artist friend, associate, community member, just like all those other guys that I've known for 25 years. And so Donnell Rawlings as well. Like, shout out to Donnell Rawlings, who can like cook his butt off. Like,
oh wow.
He's like us outside of the chefs that are coming in, because summer camp has vegan chefs, and summer camp has like, it's been like this bubble that we've created. So we go in, you get a COVID test every 3 days. So if you're there for the third day, you have to get another COVID test. So Dave Chappelle, the comedian, right, has found a way to make it so that artists can be around each other, right? The audience is getting like temperature checked, and they're of course like 10 feet apart or whatever. But us in community that way, like my king has been down. We're playing kickball. We're going on the river because Yellow Springs is gorgeous, has beautiful trails. We're doing trails. We're riding bikes. You know, the river, you know, down there, Rawlings, the river ninja, you know, like it's been things that we now traditionally don't do together, you know, and to see how, you know, I met Jon Stewart down there, wonderful person. King was really excited because Chris Rock, you know, it's funny because I like King's been around Dave and has opened for Dave Chappelle and has been around Talib and been around a lot of artists his whole life. So it's not, they're not, he doesn't know that they're famous. He just thinks that they're people. And they are just people. And then, but Chris Rock sat down next to him. And Dave has a private club called The Shack that we kind of all hang out at. It's a beautiful space. And Chris just sat down next to him. And I looked at King. I was like, I know he is freaking out because he ain't that cool. And I was like, King, how you feeling? Chris Rock is next to you. And Chris was like, oh, no big deal. Oh, who cares? And I was like, introduce yourself. So he introduced himself. And then he went up to me. I said, can I ask you a question? I said, you're around all of these famous people, well-known artists your whole life. I said, why are you tripping about Chris Rock? And he was like, Mommy, Madagascar. Madagascar. I was like, yo, Madagascar. Yo, he just put me up on like, I was like, oh, so kids know Chris Rock from.
That's funny.
Like, you know what I'm saying? And he was in Shrek as well, right? Like, I think he's done.
Yeah, that was Eddie Murphy. I think that was Eddie Murphy.
That's Eddie Murphy. Yeah, but he is in Madagascar, right?
He's in Madagascar. Yeah,
I don't watch that. I hate all them animated shows. I don't listen. I've raised so many children. That's you go with Nana to the animated stuff. I can't do it. So yeah, Madagascar. So that's why. So for him, it was like mind blowing, you know. But I mean, John Mayer's come down. David Letterman's come down, and so you know, it's awe inspiring. It's just been fun, you know. It's been networking. Like we're all talking about how do we do things together. Yeah. And so I think there'll be some creative things that come out that I won't talk about here that will come out from that gathering, so that people can get a glimpse of what happened there. But I think I'm going to be going back to Yellow Springs. I think even through this fall and continue to be a space. You know, Dave was like, you need to come here and get your Toni Morrison on. I was like, all right, create the residency. You know, but it made me think about Detroit. It made me think about artists here and how collaboration is so important. And also like people like fame is a lie, you know, like artists, creatives just want to create, you know, like at the end of the day, you know, I've been around people because I was on the comedy scene. So that's why I know Dave, because Dave and I did shows together because I was a poet. I'm from Detroit. I was doing any mic that was hot. I was like, I'm on it. I was scared of, like, you know, I did used to Caroline's. I remember Dave years ago, he always talks about it at the Flamingo Club. It was like me and Mum's the Schemer from, y'all might know him from HBO Eyes and different stuff. And my brother, and he said to me, he brought me on stage, he was hosting. So that's when poets and comedians, we do the shows together. It's just a microphone, right? Yep. And he's like, Jessica, you're gonna be famous one day. Like, you know, so I was like, shut up, Dave. But he was the first person to call me from the Smithsonian Museum of African American History. So if people don't know, I'm there, right?
Yes, correct.
I'm there.
You are up there. I remember seeing, I was like, that was another time. I was like, yo, Jess, you went in the museum. I was like, hold up. It's like, crazy. It's like, Jess, it's big too. It's huge over there.
I thought it was gonna be a little I had no idea, right? So until I came, I had no idea. I thought it was gonna be like a little TV screen installation thing. And I walked in, I was like, yo, I went for my birthday because I couldn't, the opening weekend, I was invited, but I had a gig. You know, I like money. So I had to, they weren't, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a paid thing out there. So I was like, I'm get my money. But I went on my birthday with my girlfriend and I was like, yo, what is going on right now? I was blown away. And all the security and stuff, they recognized my voice. They're like, yo, that's you? I was like, that's me up there. That's crazy. And then around the corner, it's a picture of me and Mos Def and Saul Williams and Saul Scroll, and it's just funny because these are my friends, you know what I mean? Like, so like it's like the history and the people I'm connected to in a museum together. You know, there's always going to be ways to say this isn't in here and that isn't here, but I'm honored to be in that museum in that way.
Absolutely. So, and I'm honored to have you on today, and we have a few minutes left.
Okay.
And I do want to give some space. One, I want to thank you. I'm gonna say thank you a couple more times. But you know, there may be some folks watching, the folks who tune in later who want to write. And you've obviously had a long career that is still burgeoning and is still got fires and flames stoked.
Yeah.
And I'm excited. We're excited to see what kind of keeps coming down the pipe from
More to
you.
come. Yes.
But yeah, for any writers, what advice would you give to writers who want to start out, folks who are finding their voice, who are finding their pen? What would you say to those folks?
That you can't be a good writer if you don't read. You have to read. I look at, so because I've been a independent press for such a long time, I've got lots of manuscripts sent to me. People wanting me to publish them, and I can tell a few pages in if the person doesn't read. Like I really can, and I don't mean like read like big. Not I mean, but you have to be well versed in poetry, um, because then you'll think you're writing something that's never been written before. I remember this young sister. She had a poem. I think it was called Ego Tripping. And I was like, I just had to like quietly tell her that somebody really did that already. And everything's been done before, but you can't find your own voice. Like some like hip hop culture, you're thinking, well, if I'm listening to them, I'm going to copy. And I hear some of your sisters that sound like they've been influenced by me. That's fine. Influence is fine. But you can't find your own voice if you don't hear anybody else's. Like, and being that, like, just think I'm listening, or you only know your friends. Like you can't just know your friends. So you have to go outside your comfort zone and to read everything. Read the newspaper if you got one, or read it online. Read poetry. Read memoir. Read graphic novels. Read and don't worry about people like they want me to publish them and they're not really ready. I was like, and don't be scared to self-publish. People send me their books that like they want me to invest in them and they haven't yet. I was like, I got 4 books in before I even went to HarperCollins, and so this is book 5, not book 1, and they're all good in their own ways. But it's like, don't wait for someone else to do it, to validate you. Get an editor. Oh, please get an editor. So because I'm a journalist by trade, I believe in editors. And I don't have issues with editors. I will fight if it's something that's real strong for me. Like, no, that has to stay. But HarperCollins, Amistad definitely gave me a lot of privilege they didn't edit my book in a heavy way at all. My friend Brad did, who I trusted, and we fought more than anybody else, Right. But the suggestions they made were good ones. You know what I mean? Because I believe in, you want to get it clean. Yeah. Poems are not speeches, like really learn the craft of poetry. That's what I'm in, and be relentless, and know that you're needed, because poets are needed. We're the most underpaid and the most necessary artists on the planet. And because people will ask you just to do a poem, like it's like taking a piss, man. Like, I don't do poems, and I was like, this is how I built my life. You know what I mean? And my poems are like everything. Like I put all my heartbreaks and my stories and my people and my love. Man, and it's so deep because I just was really blessed in 2018 going into 2019, which they call the year of the return. I got to do my first tour in Ghana, in West Africa. And I set that up. Like I wasn't just gonna go to Ghana and be on tour. I mean, and be a tourist. Right. I was like, I'm going to Ghana to connect with people. Right. And King, my son, as you know, is a young poet, does more music now. Yeah, he's like, he's graduated. Okay. He's a producer. And so, but then was really heavy in doing his 12 and under super cool poetry open mic. So we brought his 12 and under super cool poetry open mic to to Jamestown, where they speak Ga, to about 75 kids, man. It was amazing doing workshop. He was so overwhelmed. He's like, the kids are not understanding me. I said, talk slower. I was like, I said, why are they understanding you? Because I'm being patient. So it was wonderful to watch. And we gave away books, helped sponsor the food, helped sponsor the music. And I did a concert at the Republic in the middle of the street with these Ghanaian band that I sent them the music. Wow. Shout out to I think his brother was named Kwame Aido, I'm saying his name wrong, but he was just a kind of fan that reached out to me on Instagram. And I was like, I want to come to Ghana. I want to read on the continent. But JP, I wrote so much about the continent of West Africa that I forgot I hadn't gone there. And so please know that the power of like your imagination is real, and that you can write yourself out of your circumstances, and you can write yourself into places so much that you don't even remember that you hadn't gone yet. Wow. And I forgot until I got to Ghana. I'm thinking I'm introducing my son to Ghana. I'm like, wait, I guess I haven't been here. But I have been. Wow. And it was like going home. And I've been to South Africa and I've been to Morocco, but Ghana felt like going home. Wow. And I can't wait to get back. But like writing is powerful. You know, it really is a powerful tool because whatever you're born into, whatever house you might be in, maybe it's not the artsy far. I wasn't born in an artsy fartsy house. I was in some working class people house. But there's art in that. My father, my daddy was a poem with his Cadillac cars and his personality and the way he danced and his hats and shoes and, you know, up South Alabama country, crazy, amazing, self-made Black man. That's a poem. Yeah. So know that you don't got to be in a house with parents who went to college, who have master's degrees, who live art. You know, my son King is being raised in Omari Jazz. My first son was raised, my Earth son was raised, he's 25 now, raised in a very artistic environment, you know, poets for father and Earth mama. And so, you know, that's different kind of life. Like I don't have the life that my son, I'm giving my son the life that I would, you know, that I don't and wish I had, because the life I had shaped me into who I am now. But he has an artist life, you know, artist kid life. I didn't have that. At 22 years old, JP, my son had been to more places by 7 years old than I had been at 22. Straight up. So yeah, and I mean, that's King's life, right? But my life was like, you know, but you come in my house, my walls are covered with art. My every shelf where there can be a book, there is a book. I say you have beautiful books behind you. Like, come on. So
gotta read.
You gotta read. And so that's the long one. And then you gotta find a way to travel. And if you don't have the money to travel, then travel here. Travel here till you can get to the place. You can afford to get out of here. But because when I realized I was a global woman, my life changed. Like, so I know we don't have a lot of time, but like, I hate the word minority. It's a cuss word to me because everywhere I go, I see myself in Ghana, in Brazil, in South Africa, all over Europe, in South, though Black women and you are everywhere. And so we are, you know, the global brown and Black bodies are global people. Even when I was in Shanghai and Hong Kong, the Asian sisters are looking at me like, you know, because the African influence in Asia, you know, all of that was not taught, but it's real, and that we're all connected. The diaspora is vast, and how dare you call us the minority when you know damn well we're not. We're not. I refuse. You know, I refuse to. Like, I hear newscasters use it. I attack them online because I'm like, stop calling us that. You're using that word. If you say the word minority 10 times, like, you're trying to convince yourself that convince me that I'm less than you, and I'm not.
And you know the power of words and the power of naming, right? Like, you know that. So especially as a word person. So we got to fight for those words. The words are powerful.
Right. Now we're the global majority. I'm clear.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
And we need to vote.
Okay.
I say vote.
We do need to vote. That's a good way to kind of come to a close on this, is to vote. I'm going to end with gratitude. I just want to thank you again. Thank you for spending time with me and us today. Love you too, yo. This has been been so dope. Just to hear you talk about everything.
Guava.
Out here. Everybody who's tuning in, please go check out. Please go purchase. We want our bodies back. Follow Jessica Care More everywhere. Make sure all the platforms.
And tonight I'm on Instagram Live with Hakeem Adabuti at 7 p.m. The founder of Third World Press is going to be on my Instagram Live show. Yo, I text Baba Hakeem. I was like, do you know how to get on Instagram Live? So he said he does. Listen,
go check that out too. 7 o'clock on her Instagram.
Yeah.
Make sure you are subscribing to American Legacy Network. More Memoir Noirs are coming. Thank you again.
Thank you, Jay.
Go vote, as Jessica Campbell just said. It's our last word. Please go vote.
Vote early. Vote early. Yes.
Vote early. Yes. Vote early. And and we'll see you on the next one.
Buy books.
Buy books.
Don't date anyone who doesn't have a bookshelf. I don't. Brother ain't got no bookshelf.
Buy Jessica's books.
No love.
All right, y'all. We out of here. Peace and power to you. Much love. And we'll see you next time.